Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Sellers, and I work in the Disaster Recovery Program area for the Texas General Land Office. And we are here tonight to go over the state's action plan for the wildfire assistance money that we've received from the federal government. I just wanted to lay out the format for the evening. We are going to do a presentation of what the plan is and just give an overview of how we're proposing to use the funding. And then we'll have a time where you can come up and give comments to the plan. We've asked that you fill out one of these cards with your name and information on it if you're going to comment, or even if you don't want to get up publicly and comment, you can fill one of these out and submit it to us. We won't be providing a lot of feedback tonight because we want to take all the comments in, and then we'll be putting up comments to the plan on our website. Also, the plan is on the GLO's website right now, which is www.glo.texas.gov. And you can go there to get all the information that we have available about the wildfires. We hope to not be here very long and not take up too much of your time. We know it's the evening and everybody's anxious to get home, I'm sure, but I will go ahead and introduce everybody who's up here with me. This is Javier Perez. He does the project oversight for the disaster recovery program, so he manages all our construction activities that go on, home building and engineering and those type of activities. Heather Lagrone is our program manager. She oversees all the program design and implementation for all the disaster recovery activities. And this is Marissa Mason. She's the grant manager that will be overseeing the management of the grant in this particular area. If you'll just hold all your questions until after Heather finishes her presentation, then we'll open up the floor to take those comments. And without further ado, we'll pass it to Heather.
Thank you. Again, my name is Heather Lagrone. I'm a program manager with the General Land Office, and I just want to go through a really quick overview of the action plan itself, kind of give you an idea of what it says if you haven't had an opportunity to go to our website and look at it. Within the action plan itself, we have an opportunity for public comment, like Katie mentioned. You can either come and do it verbally, you can write it on the card and hand it to us tonight. You'll have an opportunity to email in any of your comments. We'll take faxes, phone calls, all of those things for the next 10 days. And all of those comments will actually make their way into the action plan itself with a response. So anything that you bring up here, you will see a response to it in the action plan once we get there. Let me just give you a little bit of background about the allocation as a whole. As you're aware, there was a declaration in Texas for the latter part of last year related to wildfires. That declaration included 65 counties, Bastrop County, of course, being the county that received the majority of that damage. On February 3rd, we received a press release from Department of Housing and Urban Development letting us know that the state of Texas would be allocated an allocation of about $31 million for wildfire recovery. Within that declaration, we were also told that 80% of those funds would be spent in Bastrop County, recognizing the majority of the damage for that declaration to be within Bastrop County. So April the 16th had issued our rules in the Federal Register that basically defined for us how we would be allowed to use the funds. Based on that, we have developed the action plan that's in front of you today. Again, these funds are made available to us for the wildfire recovery. So any project, be it a house or infrastructure project that we do, will have to have a direct relationship to a wildfire event from the end of last year. So you'll see those types of questions in any of the applications that we ultimately will put out. As I said, the majority of the funds are allocated to Bastrop County. I'm guessing that the majority of you here to hear about the Bastrop County allocation, so we'll focus on that, but we'll also touch on the remainder of the funds so that you can get an idea of that as well. When you apply the 80% calculation to the $31 million, that means $23 million will be spent in Bastrop County for recovery. We've been working with the county since we first heard that this allocation would be coming. In our conversations with the county, we decided that the money would be split, the $23 million coming to Bastrop County would be split 80% going to direct homeowner assistance for housing that was damaged by the wildfires. The remaining 20% of the allocation that's made available to the Bastrop County area, the county will be utilizing for infrastructure or what we consider non-housing programs. Potential eligible uses can be things like roads, fire equipment, erosion control, and the county will be applying to the state for the use of those funds. Under the housing program, we will be working with homeowners. It will be homeowners who were, as I said, directly impacted by the wildfire. Eligible activities are going to be either the rehab or reconstruction of stick-built homes. Rehab will be for damages less than $75,000. If the damages to your home exceed $75,000, then we will go up to $125,000 for full reconstruction of your home. As we're looking at your need, we consider things like insurance that you may have received. We also consider issues like FEMA funds, SBA loans, anything that you received towards that loss. And all of those allocations or funding sources that you could have received will be netted off of the balance that we can provide to you. It's intended that our program fill a gap if you have a gap in your housing need for the housing program. We will go above our caps if you have special circumstances, elevation, if you're in a floodplain, over and above that $125,000, we can elevate your home to ensure that you're removed from the floodplain or above the floodplain. If you have special ADA type considerations, we will allow you to go above the cap. But generally, the caps are $75,000 for rehab and $125,000 if a full reconstruct is necessary. Another issue that we're going to consider is if your home was completely destroyed and you want to purchase a home in another location, we will consider down payment assistance to allow you assistance towards purchasing a different home in a different site if that's something that you're interested in. And that will be something that we'll be looking at within the application process. To qualify for one of the homes, again, you must have been impacted by the disaster. You have to have a wildfire related issue. And we're also going to serve individuals who have less than 100% of the area median family income. Those numbers are going to be available on our website. We can give you an idea. It's based on household size. So a family of 4 making less than 100% of the area median income would be eligible for the program. A family of 5, it's based on family size. You're also going to have to prove that the home that was damaged was your primary residence. You can do it through tax rolls, you can do it through driver's license issued in your name at that address, through utility bills at that address in your name. There's various opportunities to prove primary residence. Another issue, because it's state funding that we have to assure, is that if you have child support that you're required to pay, that you're current on that child support. We cannot help a homeowner that's not current or in a payment plan to become current on child support. We're also going to consider property taxes in a similar way, in that we want you to be either current on your property taxes or at least in a payment plan to get current on your property taxes. So those are the eligibility criteria for the individual homeowners. Application intake is probably going to happen late summer. You'll see more information coming up on our website We'll be putting together the application process itself and getting all of those details to you as HUD approves the plan. We do intend to use local contractors wherever possible. And as we're using those local contractors, we are putting together a bid process that has already been completed. We've identified the contractors that we plan to use through a competitive process, and those contractors are on board so that we can start assisting you as soon as your applications can be approved. Because these are federal funds, though, there are particular restrictions and requirements on the funds. One of those requirements is for an environmental fund release. You have to have an environmental clearance to allow you to spend these federal dollars. So you'll see us doing things in a prescribed process to ensure that we hit all of those federal requirements to keep you eligible for the program. So the first thing that you'll do is you'll apply to the program. After your application has been fully vetted and we know we're going to fund you, we'll do an environmental fund release on your particular site. Once that's complete, we can enter into the agreement with the contractor who will actually do the rehab or the reconstruction. The state itself will be responsible for the rehab or reconstruction. We'll have multiple floor plans and things like that for you to select from, but we will be actually hiring the contractor who does the construction on your home. We will ensure that they're up to code, that they meet housing quality standards, that they have visitability considered within the structure, and all of the necessary things to bring it to code in your particular area. And again, like I said, application intake is going to be late this summer, and you'll see announcements coming out about that. It'll be on our website. The application forms will be there as well. I'm sure it'll be in the paper, all of those things. Now, flipping to the remaining 20% that's available for Bastrop County. It's about $4.7 million, and that's for that non-housing side that I was talking about. This is the monies, excuse me, this is the monies that Bastrop County itself will be applying for infrastructure type needs that the county has resulting from the wildfire. And the county already has a plan for those funds, and I know they're very anxious to receive them and get started on that. Same thing is going to apply with their monies. We've got to go through that process that we have to follow for the federal requirements.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I understand. I'm sorry. And again, with the federal requirements, Bastrop County is going to have to do that federal fund release. Once they do that federal fund release, then they can hire the contractors that they're going to utilize for their programs, so on and so forth. I do want to touch just really briefly on the remainder of the funds. There were 65 counties impacted. 64 of those counties are outside of Bastrop County, and they will participate in a competitive process for the funding on the non-housing side. That competition is going to consider distress factors. It's going to look at the community's damage. It's going to look at need. It's going to look at poverty, distress factors as they pertain to the community for disaster-related issues. And we have about $5.9 million that those 64 counties will individually be competing for. The minimum application on the non-housing, non-Bastrop County side will be a $200,000 application, and the maximum will be $1 million. So we've got the $5.9 million with those caps within it. Generally, the plan going forward is to move through the public comment period. Starting today, it will close in 10 days. We'll take public comments here tonight, tomorrow evening in Tyler. We will take them again via email, via fax, phone calls. All of those are acceptable means of providing public comment. At the end of the 10 days, all of your comments will be gathered. We will actually draft them into the action plan and write a reasoned response to each one of them. Once that's complete, and by June 30th, we will submit the action plan to HUD. HUD, who's the governing entity for these funds, has told us that they will take 45 days to approve the plan. As they're approving the plan, we will be working on the environmental fund release that I talked about earlier. We will be continuing to work with our contractors to ensure that they're ready, and we'll be finalizing your application process. So all of those things will be happening simultaneously. With that, I do want to open it up for public comment. I think we've gotten a couple of cards of folks who wanted to comment. If you haven't turned in a card, we are going to ask you to turn in a card. Like Katie said earlier, if you simply want to provide your comment on this card but not vocalize it from the podium, that's fine as well. We don't intend to necessarily answer your questions tonight from the podium. We will be around after if you have particular questions that we can address for you. The intent of tonight's meeting is to hear from you. So we would really like to hear any questions or concerns or ideas that you have towards how we can improve upon the plan that we've presented.
And we also are going to limit it to 3 minutes, just so that we can be sure and have enough time to hear from all of you that want to provide comments or questions. And so at that point, I have received some cards, so we'll go ahead and start. Chris Biles was...
Good evening. My name's Chris Files. I'm the president of the Bastrop County Long-Term Recovery Team. I just want to say how much we appreciate the opportunity to have you here this evening and your participation in the HUD-FUD grant program, the Community Development Block Grant Program. As you're well aware, there were approximately 276 uninsured homes in Bastrop County and approximately 774 low-income homes, meaning that they will probably fall in the 80% to 100% of median income, which will be the ones you will be serving. It is our hope that these funds will assist Bastrop County in building 160 to 200 possibly homes for these individuals. As you're aware, our organization is also trying to assist this same group of individuals, and it is our hope that we will be working closely together with your case managers and our case management and our organization in this program going forward. This is an incredible opportunity for our county to recover. We realize that, and we appreciate, again, all of you being here. I do have a couple of questions to also pose. One of them will be with regards to what are qualified expenses that people will be able to have spent their FEMA money on and show you receipts for. There's been a number of questions that we've been fielding as far as what qualifies as an expense of what they could have spent their FEMA money on, in particular recreational vehicles that they bought or travel trailers that were bought for housing purposes, whether those will be a qualified expense. In addition, whether contracts for deed will be considered clear title on property. Because I do know that one of the requirements will be that individuals be able to show that they have clear title to their property and will not get put in line until they can show that they do in fact have clear title to their property. The third thing would be, I saw in the proposed action plan a comment regarding settlements from lawsuits that would also be considered as part of income that you may have gotten from another source to help pay for your house. As you're well aware, a number of these individuals have filed a lawsuit against Blue Bonnet Electric Company. And is there going to have to be an assignment of whatever they would get as a result of that lawsuit, any amount they would get as a result of that lawsuit that they are currently in with Blue Bonnet Electric Company? Those are the three main questions so far that we are fielding. So if you could assist us with those answers, that would be tremendous. As you are well aware, we'll be fielding a lot of questions on the CDBG grant program. We get a lot of questions. In particular, the income levels. I hadn't seen that posted on your website. If it is posted there, let me know, or if it's going to be in the future, because we are making decisions we're currently making decisions on who we build houses for and who we are assisting based on the income levels that you will be assisting. We do not want to duplicate work, although I think there's enough work to go around for both organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, I had Sandy Hemphill.
Hi, my concern is about renters who were displaced by the fire. There seems to be little or no assistance coming forward to help us find homes again. And I, for one, have been homeless since September, and I'm tired of it. I've applied for everything under the sun. Nothing comes my way. Before the fire, rental property in Bastrop County was really poor quality and abusively expensive. Now it's practically non-existent. Not everybody wants to own a home. I wouldn't know how to take care of a home if I owned it. I'm a renter. I will always be a renter, and I deserve a home, and I want to know, why are we renters being ignored? I'd also like to know why it is that people who had to leave the county to find shelter, be it temporary or long-term, why are we being ignored all around? There's no contact with us. There's been hardly any contact at all since September. Mattress companies in Austin have our names and addresses, but when funds are distributed by churches and charities here, we're not even notified that that process is going on, so we're missing out on that too. And I'd just like to know, what about the renters and what about the people who had to leave? We're homeless too. We were still victimized by the fire.
Thank you. Michelle Baker.
Hi.
Ugh,
That's really
I
annoying.
thought he had it fixed. Helped, but now we may not be able to hear people.
Oh, you'll be able to hear me.
Okay.
Please speak into the mic.
Yeah.
No, we do.
As soon as he gets hit the
Yeah.
My name is Michelle Baker. Been in Bastrop since 1989. Went to high school here. I'm on the Bastrop Fire Department. I watched my house burn in a fire truck in my driveway. It was very, very hard for me. Had a very, very hard time with it. I feel very, very badly for every single person in this room that's lost anything from this fire, whether it be their yard, their house, or what have you. I'm like Miss Hemphill. I was a renter at the time. We lost everything. I didn't know my house was going to burn until about 15 minutes before it did, and I never took the time to get anything out of it. My husband and I were on a fire truck for 36 straight hours when it was time for our house to burn. So we didn't get anything out except the clothes that were on our back. I do have to agree with her that throughout this process, people that were not homeowners or were not living in a home that they were paying for have been left out of the communications loop. Everything I've gotten has been by word of mouth, Facebook, newspaper, and I've had to dig for that. We get very little information sent to us via emails through the FEMA or the SBA or y'all. Our information's not ever added to that list because we weren't living in a home. The only assistance that I have been offered was to move out of Bastrop County, and I was insulted. I'm devoted to this county. I take my days off to go to schools to talk to kids about fire prevention, not to go on a vacation outside of Bastrop. We've chosen for this to be our home. This is my family's home. My husband and I and my father and my mother have dedicated all of the years we've been in Bastrop to community service because we love Bastrop. We love walking down Main Street and bumping in to the mayor or our next door neighbor and going into Maxine's on Main and having lunch together just because. So we don't want to leave, but we do need help. I have a couple of questions for you. As far as the AMFI is concerned, I have extensively read your draft, and for the most part, I think it's very well put together, but I do have a couple of questions, and one of them being about AMFI. At the time of the fire, I was the sole breadwinner of my house. My husband had injured his back on an ambulance working in Bastrop County and had to have surgery and was not working at the time. So our financial crisis at the time of the fire was way worse than it is currently. What is going to be used? Our financial situation at the time of the fire or our financial situation right now? Long-term recovery has been fantastic. They have stepped up to the plate and they have worked with us a lot. Unfortunately, in their process of helping us, we've been sent to other places, and those other places have made this a very, very hard time. I was chastised for my spending habits for the last 6 months. Well, when you don't have a pair of socks or a pair of toenail clippers or a winter coat, you have to buy them. My spending habits prior to the fire were saving $60 to $65 a week with coupons. The last 6 months, I've had to rebuild my life. So I think that should be taken into consideration when all of this is being looked at. I was below the poverty line at the time of the fire, unfortunately, but I was still working as hard as I could and making it happen. Now, fortunately, I'm not because my husband's been able to go back to work, but we're still rebuilding from that. I feel like I'm having to fight multiple battles uphill. So I think that should possibly be something that's taken into consideration. My other question to y'all is, for those of us who were not homeowners at the time, and I see the down payment assistance, and it looks promising for us, but we've also, fortunately, been able to possibly do something else. My mother-in-law at the time was affected by the fire. She was out in ground zero. Her house went very fast. She's chosen not to rebuild out there because of the devastation. It's hard for her to even drive out there. But being a good Bastrop resident, she bought another house in Bastrop, site built. She has deeded the land to us. We can't get anybody to touch us with a 10-foot pole. We weren't living there when the fire happened. We didn't have any connection to that property. Is there something that could be looked at, possibly added to this draft, to consider those folks who possibly are in the same position as we are? We're wanting to rebuild on this acre lot that needs love, attention, and care, and we want to put a house there and we want to be Bastrop County residents again, and we can't get any assistance. We have no problem going out and lifting a shovel and pulling a rake and swinging a hammer. We just need a little bit of help. So those are a few of the things I need for y'all to know that are going on out here to know what kind of help that we can possibly get from y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Bompton?
Thank you. My name is Michael Bauman, and I live on 1177 Highway 21 East in Page. Our home was destroyed in the fire. However, we are in the process of rebuilding and plan to stay in Bastrop County. I'm speaking to you tonight as president of the Alum Creek Wildlife Management Association. Our WMA has over 100 members, and we control about 5,000 acres of land in Bastrop County. And unfortunately, the boundaries of the association fit very nicely on the boundaries of the Bastrop County Complex fire. So many of our members suffered losses on their homes. In recovering from the fire's destruction and devastation, it's critical to ensure that the basic county infrastructure will be rebuilt. And I'm very glad to see that the GLO and HUD through the CDBG grant program have established an amount of funds that the county is going to be able to utilize to support that recovery effort. Left unmitigated, if we don't do that, the erosion will continue to delay the recovery of not only the Lost Pines ecosystem, but also will alter the landscape and will lead to continued destruction of homes such as the ones that we're hearing about tonight that folks are looking for monies to help rebuild. But if we don't do something about the infrastructure, especially on the erosion control, we're running the risk of those monies not being spent wisely and potentially having more problems in the future. And that's not a hypothetical. We already have information on several homes during the rainfalls this winter that were flooded that had not been previously flooded, but because of the effects of the erosion and the lack of the infrastructure being able to control that, those homes suffered flooding already. We're aware of a dam on private lands north of Highway 21 that's been severely damaged by erosion north of that area. If this dam lets go, there's the potential of folks downstream all the way to Highway 21 will have their property impacted, potentially even Highway 21. These are just examples of things that we know are out there in the county right now. The thing is, we need the funding, and thank you for having a percentage of the fund allocated towards those. The nice part is that the county has led a team of federal, state, and local agencies, as you noted, to develop a well-thought-out erosion control plan, the habitat control plan.
I'm sorry, could you speak up just a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm not the only one that can't hear. These other people say they can't hear, and they've been unable to hear the other people, and I'm catching part of what he's saying sounds very, very important.
Yeah, that, we've asked him to
Speak
up.
into the mic.
And also, we'll have this available online afterwards if you need to go home and watch it with a volume turned up or something like that. So, go ahead.
Thanks. And as I was mentioning, the county, through the efforts of the federal, state, and local agencies that they've worked with, have developed the Lost Pines Habitat Recovery Project, which basically addresses what we need to do on the infrastructure and on the lands that are subject to erosion to ensure that we do not continue to see damage as a result of the effects of the wildfire. As an aside, this is not a fly-by-night plan that was just put together on a whim. This was done with subject matter experts, and as a matter of fact, Texas Parks and Wildlife a week ago gave their land stewardship awards out for projects across the entire state of Texas that were really seen as cutting edge and things that are really necessary to be done within the state. The Bastrop team was one of only 7 projects across the entire state of Texas that was awarded an award for this, specifically Roxanne Hernandez, who was the coordinator of the team. And so we got a well thought out plan right now. The question is, how do you move from a plan to actual implementation? And as you may know, you probably do know, the plan is a 5-year plan, but it will require about $17 million in funding, which obviously is going to have to come from a large number of sources, both private and public, which hopefully will include the percentage that you mentioned in the HUD CDBG program. And again, my comments are that I think it's great that we have the monies in here, and I think it's important because if we don't put the money into the infrastructure, we're running the risk of the monies that are being spent on the houses are going to be at risk for further devastation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I believe that was all the cards that I received. If nothing else, then as Heather mentioned, we are taking all these comments. The public comment period begins today and stays open for 10 days. We will take all the comments that we've received at this hearing through email. You can also email. It's located on the website as well. And then our hearing tomorrow night. And then those comments will receive a response that will be part of the action plan we submit to HUD. We will be here after the hearing is over with to mingle with you guys and ask you questions. I know a number of your questions were very specific, and we may not be able to provide you answers here, but that is why we will put the answers online. So hopefully we can address some of your issues that you've raised. Yes. Again, the website is www.glo.texas, spelled out TEXAS.gov. And on that website, there is a disaster recovery tab, and then further there's a wildfire specific tab on your left-hand side. If you have any comments, you can also email them directly to an email address that I can give you. It's Gina, G-E-N-A .Hawkins, H-A-W-K-I-N-S, at glo.texas.gov. I can also give you a fax number, 512-447-5329. And all of that's in our action plan that's online as well. So we want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We are going to try to do everything we can with this funding, and we appreciate you being committed to the recovery of this community. And I know that there are a number of people from the county that we've worked with, and other community leaders that are very committed to the recovery here, and we appreciate everyone's involvement, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you very much.